Hey YouTube, it's your girl Chic from Chic Speaks. Welcome, welcome. Please come on in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe as you enter the room. Welcome YouTube, welcome Facebook. Listen, I want to talk about the story surrounding the 10-year-old boy who's accused of fatally shooting his mom. Quiana Mann, 44-year-old, a 44-year-old mother from Wisconsin. So the story is quite disturbing. I've been researching this, and it's so many moving parts. And what made me want to really, come out here and talk about it is that, it right now, everybody's been seeing or hearing all the headlines pertaining to was that Shanquilla, the young lady in Mexico who was killed by her supposed friends. I use the word friends loosely because, like, what friends go around doing what these group of 6 people are going around are being accused of? But yeah, so the topic of femicide has just been heavy talked about as of late with the deaths on 2 women. And for anyone who may not know, femicide is the violent death upon a woman at the hands of either a man or a woman. So this story, to me, it falls up underneath the whole, I guess, category or lane of femicide, because this is a woman who died as a result of, a gun violence at the hands of her 10-year-old child. So I want to just share the information that's coming out pertaining to the case and the son, because, the grandma has been coming out speaking, and she was like, y'all please, have mercy on my grandchild, because he's mentally ill, and there's a history of just him doing the absolute most. So I want to get into all of that. Y'all know how I do. I'm going to share my screen and show the news report. There's a couple of reports that I want to share because different outlets is kind of reporting different information pertaining to the case. So I want to share all that I was able to come across, so you can hear, and try to figure this thing out as well. Because listen, I'm over here like, okay, what happened now? What he said, who he said did it? And like I said, the story is just quite disturbing. It is evident that this little boy did have some or does have mental illness challenges. It's just evident, when you, first of all, when you hear the story, 10-year-old boy shoots his mom, okay, something ain't right here. But as I deep dive into the story, it's been confirmed that, okay, something isn't right. This little boy has some mental illness going on, and it is on record. And the family had been, and when I say the family, I mean the little boy's mom had been seeking out help for her son. So I put in the title, like, where is dad? Where's Papa? Like, where he's at? Because I've been researching the story, and I have yet to hear anything pertaining to the whereabouts of this little boy's father. So you hear about how mom had been trying to hold it down and get treatment for her son, but it's like she's been going about it all by herself. And we all know how that goes when, a single parent, in particular, a woman, is trying to hold down parenting by herself, and then parenting a little boy who is of the adolescence age. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to share this news report so we can get the details pertaining to, what's going on. And this report is a current report as of today, December 2nd, 2022. Again, thank you for joining. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. So let's get into this news report.
An adult for allegedly shooting and killing his mother over a video game has been charged as an adult for allegedly shooting and killing his mother over a video game headset.
Our Gabrielle Mays joins us live. These are disturbing new details just released, Gabby. Yeah, criminal complaint says family members told police that the boy has had mental health issues since he was at least the age of 4. And by the way, we're not naming him because of his age. What was originally thought to be an accident is now considered first-degree reckless homicide. When police went inside a home near 87th and Hemlock on November 21st, they found a 44-year-old woman dead. This criminal complaint says the woman was shot in the head and her 10-year-old son did it. Investigators say the boy told them his mother walked in front of him when he tried to shoot the wall to scare her. The complaint goes on to say after shooting his mother, he put the gun in the living room closet, then telling his older sister their mom is dead. The alleged reason why is on page 3 of this complaint and states he admitted that his mother would not allow him to have something from Amazon that he wanted to have. The complaint goes on to state the boy wanted a virtual reality headset, which he bought the day after his mother's death. The complaint says he apologized to his grandma for killing his mom, then asked if his Amazon package arrived. Mayor Cavalier Johnson had this to say about the case.
Anytime there's violence that happens in Milwaukee, whether it's committed by somebody who's 10 years old or much older than that, that gives me pause. I don't want to see anybody hurt or lose their lives in the city. In this particular case, I don't have the details just yet. This is something that is just coming to my attention just this morning.
The criminal complaint shows the boy's sister told detectives he had rage issues all his life and becomes very angry and acts out. The boy's cash bond has been set at $50,000. He's expected to be back in court 1 week from today. Reporting live in Milwaukee, Gabrielle Mays, Fox 6 News.
Very disturbing allegations.
Okay, so that's the first news report, that I came across. So let's get into what this article is saying. Well, let's switch gears. So we heard the news report. This is what the New York Times is posting pertaining to the situation surrounding the 10-year-old shooting and killing his mom. So grandma is now, she's out and she's pleading like, listen, y'all, like my grandbaby had some issues. We were together, working through them. Can y'all show him some mercy? He's just a baby. So I want to talk about that because I've been seeing just different discussions going on online as far as to how harsh of a punishment this young boy at 10 should receive, given, he's 10 and then he also is dealing with mental illness. I haven't seen as of yet exactly what type of mental illness he has, but we'll get into this article and, start, forming our own, conclusion as to what we may think could be going on with this young man. Just from just opinion and just based off of just the, the presenting symptoms, that's been said surrounding his case. So this article is the Daily Beast, and it says, mercy for troubled Wisconsin boy charged in mom's murder. Grandmother pleads. The 10-year-old boy has complained for years of voices in his head that would tell him to do bad things. His grandmother says he is clearly unwell and needs help. So this is a picture of, it looks like it's the grandma, and this is Quiana Mann, the young lady who lost her life at the hands of her 10-year-old son. The article goes on to say the Milwaukee 10-year-old charged as an adult with fatally shooting his mother after she refused to buy him a virtual reality headset tells his family that he is still on Santa's list. So remember, as I say, they've been talking about mental illness. So as we go through the details of this article, there'll probably be many signs that indicate that clearly there's something going on with this young man. And unfortunately, I'm not going to say it wasn't addressed because the mom had been seeking help, but they hadn't gotten his condition under control, I should say, prior to the death of Quiana Mann. So the article goes on to say, quote, he said, Santa's bringing him some things for Christmas. His grandmother, Loretta Mann, told the Daily Beast on Thursday. The boy, whose name is being withheld because of his age, expressed a holiday wish from the juvenile detention facility where he has been held on a $50,000 bail for allegedly killing his mother, 44-year-old Quiana Mann. Quote, he said yesterday, can we go to the house and decorate it for Christmas? Put up the Christmas tree and decorate the outside of the house. Laretha reported, if he can't come to help, he wants to go and do it. We told him we would do that. Events such as a decorating for Christmas, elaborate birthday parties, and trips to far-off places were part of Quiana's effort to help her youngest of 4 children cope with psychiatric disturbances. Quote, he's always said that he hears voices, Laretha said. There's 2 little girls inside his head telling him to do things, and he has an imaginary friend that would tell him to do really bad things. So immediately I will say, just, from listening to, when them saying him hearing voices in his head, I'm like, okay, are we dealing with a form of schizophrenia that's going on with this young man? Just, and I just say that just because, really, with the voices. So, but I haven't yet, again, learned of any formal or official diagnoses pertaining to this young man's mental health. The article also goes on to say he has long had difficulty sleeping, and the voices become particularly intense in the early morning hours. He said that his thoughts and everything starts generating around 5 or 6 in the morning, Laretha said, sometimes 4 o'clock. He has struggled at school. He tried to do the right thing, but he couldn't do it right, Laretha said, and he was bullied a lot, really bad. 2 years ago, he fell off a swing at school and hit the back of his head, suffering a concussion. Quote, so that just meshed with the mental illness, and it just kind of spiraled and made him worse, Laretha said. It was bad. Sometimes he would have these episodes where he was just kind of mean to his mother. So the article also goes on to say there's 2 little girls inside his head, tell him to do things, and he has an imaginary friend that would tell him to do really bad things. He did not seem to register his impact on her any more than he did his puppy's howls when he swung it around by the tail. So this young man had been demonstrating disturbing behavior for quite some time. Quote, he didn't pick up a lot of things, Laretha said. He talks intelligent, but he doesn't understand a lot of things, and he would cry a lot. 6 months ago, he filled a balloon with an inflammable liquid and ignited it. The resulting fire spread to a carpet and furniture in the living room before it was extinguished. He afterwards told his family that the 2 little girls in his head told him to do it. He called the duo, quote unquote, sisters, and offered some insight into his alternative reality when he described one little girl as an elderly woman and the other as an unpleasant man. Quiana had been taking her son to a therapist whose diagnoses confirmed the severity of his illness. She got daily reports from his school whether he had disrupted the class on that particular day, and there was no shortage of people willing to do what they could to assist her. So as they say, listen, it takes a village. Again, I'm reading this article, still no mention of a father. As she continued the effort to cheer and stabilize her son, Quiana managed to work as a healthcare coordinator and came within 3 credits of the master's degree, even attending Holy Temple First Baptist Church and singing in a gospel choir called the Disciplets. Together, she and her son went to Disneyland Christmas and to New York in June. They flew off to Puerto Rico in early November, returning last week. He appeared to like the trips, but wherever they went, he seemed unable to shake off his inner torment. I don't know if he was ever really happy, Laretha said, unless you know he was getting something. The family says he would sometimes steal his mother's credit cards to buy things online. He was certainly not happy when she stopped him from buying an Oculus virtual reality headset. So that's the headset that kind of spiraled all of this when he wanted that. And she was like, no. For whatever reason, she was like, no, I'm not buying it. On November 2022, the boy climbed out of his bed in early morning hours when his voices are most active. He would later say that he was angry because his mother had awakened him at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 a.m., when he wanted to sleep for another half hour. Around 7 a.m., he went into the second floor bedroom where his 26-year-old life sister, Brianna Moore, sleeps. He told her to come. He thinks mama's dead, Laretha reported. The boy led Moore to the basement where mother lay dead in a pool of blood. She called 911. And Laretha, she said, something happened and it's bad. The grandmother recalled. I said, well, what happened? Is everything okay? She said, no, mama, it's bad. Very sad. Let's see. As recounted by the subsequent criminal complaint, the boy initially told the police that he took the gun from his mother's bedroom and descended to the basement where she was tending to some laundry. He originally described twirling the gun around on his finger, and then it accidentally went off, the complaint said. Due to age considerations, the boy was allowed to remain with family. A maternal aunt, Sharonda Reed, came to take the boy to her home. She asked him where the house keys were kept, and he retrieved a set from his bedroom, telling her he had hid them from his mother. When the boy's aunt looked at the set of keys, she noticed a small key on the key ring that was for Quiana's gun lockbox. The criminal complaint notes, when his aunt questioned the boy further, he altered the story that he had earlier told the police. The boy told his aunt that he was actually aiming the gun at his mother. The complaint reports that the boy said he had the gun in both hands and assumed a shooting stance. His mother uttered her last words, quote, "Why do you have that? Put that down." The boy spent the night with Reed. He had some unfinished business. The boy logged on to the deceased's Amazon account, assessed the account, and ordered an Oculus virtual reality set. The complaint said the purchase was made by the boy during the morning of November 22nd, 2022, following their mother's death. Later that morning, Reed took the boy to see grieving Laretha. Upon arrival, when the boy saw his grandmother crying, he stated without any empathy or compassion, "I'm really sorry for what happened. I'm sorry for killing my mom," the complaint said. And after apologizing for killing his mother, asked if his Amazon package arrived. The family had called the police. Laretha spoke to the boy before detectives arrived. He said it was an accident, but what was an accident to me may not seem like an accident to everybody else, she recalled. So, listen, like this, it's evident, that this young man, he can recall and have recollection of everything that happened. It just seems like, what we're seeing, he's changing up, okay, the versions, or I guess the details surrounding her death, but he definitely was coherent as far as, with what he was doing, like very aware. He was very aware, because, his grandma said, he's a smart young man. He may sometimes struggle with communicating, but to me, this sounds like a young man that definitely knew what he was doing, even though he's saying he was hearing voices. He definitely was, he can recall, he knows what he was doing. So the family apprised the detectives of the boy's psychiatric history and said the killing might have been recorded by cameras Quiana had installed in the house, but somebody had unplugged them 2 weeks before. Detectives questioned him after reading him his rights. During his memorandized interview, the boy admitted that he was not twirling the gun around when he shot his mom. The complaint says he admitted that his mother would not allow him to have something from Amazon that he wanted to have. The boy admitted getting his mother's set of keys the night before. He admitted he shot her in the face when she was approximately 3 feet away from her. After shooting his mother, he put the gun in the living room closet. So again, this young man knew what he did, what he was doing. Like he knew right from wrong in that moment. Like he knew, he knew. So the complaint notes the bullet entered through the victim's right eye, traveled through the victim's brain, and then bullet fragments exited out the back of the victim's head through her skull. The victim's face had splinged on, stifling on it, indicating the gun was fired at the victim at close range. On November 25th, the boy was allowed to remain at a juvenile detention facility while an initial hearing was held in Milwaukee County Circuit Court. He was assigned an attorney, Robin Dorman. Extensive discussion took place prior to the case being called on the record, the court papers note. The Milwaukee Court District Attorney decided that the 10-year-old with a long history of mental illness and hearing multiple voices should be trialed as an adult. Judge Cristela Cervera set bail at $50,000 and ruled that the boy be allowed 1 phone call a day. Laretha reports that the boy calls her home every day at 6:00 p.m. Very disheartening. Very, again, where's Papa? Where is Papa? Where is Daddy? Quote, we spoke to him recently and he said that he went to write a letter to the judge and asked the judge if he could please put some type of monitor on him, some electrode on him so he could come home, she said. If he did, if he had bad thoughts or got ready to do anything bad, that it would shock him or electrocute him or something. On Tuesday afternoon, Laretha sat at home looking at photographs of her daughter and grandson. She loved being a mom, Laretha said. Laretha came to a photo of his 3rd birthday party. His birthday parties were fabulous, she said. The table is set up so beautiful. The balloons, the gifts, the cake. That was the year before the baby started doing things like spinning his puppy around by its tail as it howled. The boy was now being held as an adult charged with 1st-degree reckless homicide. They decided we're just going to throw the book at him, she said. Laretha is certain that prosecution of her son as an adult is not at all what her daughter would want. She would want us to do everything we could to help him, Laretha said. Neither the Milwaukee District Attorney nor the boy's attorney responded to a request for comment. Quiana Mann's funeral is set for Friday, so that's today, at the Holy Temple Firstborn Church. Attendees are asked to wear pink, her favorite color. Masks are strongly recommended as befits someone in healthcare. Her son's next court hearing is scheduled for December 7th. The family will be setting up a tree and decorating the house without the help of the boy, who believes he is still on Santa's list. You know, this is what when I talk about, you know, on my channel, I talk a lot about family. I'm very pro-family, like married, you know, no wound, no baby, you know what they say, no ring, no baby. Listen, I'm all about the family. And I feel like children who have the opportunity to be brought up in a 2-parent household have a better odds of, you know, living more productive lives. You know, nothing's guaranteed. But again, like I say, I like to follow the numbers, and the data does show that children who are, you know, in the home with both parents, they tend to fare out better because, as I say, one is no more important than the other. This was a woman who was a single parent of 4 children. It didn't say the ages of the other children, but that's a lot. You know, I come from a family of 4, and a good portion of, you know, my life was, you know, being raised by a just my mom, a single mom of 4. And to me, I saw the work that it took to hold down a household with 4 children. Like it's a lot. So I knew early on, okay, that's not going to be that's not what I want, because I seen it was a lot. And I saw that the difference it would have made had there been a father consistently in the home, there to help out, provide support when it comes to just regular everyday things, responsibility around the house, not to mention just the financial aspect it takes to just for survival, So that's why I put in my title, where is the father? Because this woman, it was evident she was doing the best she could to care for her family. Grandma talked about all the trips and things that she would do to show him that, he was loved, in hopes that, okay, by making him happy, that maybe those bad things, those bad behaviors that he was demonstrating, maybe they would stop. But as we see, it's evident there was some type of mental illness going on, because you can just see, it's almost like, there's this disconnect with the young man, to where he still hasn't grasped the seriousness of what he has done. To him, it's just like, okay, well, just put something on my ankle, and if I start to do something bad, it'll just shock me. Like, that's, for one, he's 10, but also not only is he 10, he's dealing with mental illness. So his level of understanding as to what exactly he's done is just that much more limited, because you have the mental illness layered on top of the fact that he's only 10 years old. Now let's talk about the charges, as far as with him being charged as an adult. What exactly does that mean, for, when it said a child, or this particular young man, will be charged as an adult? When I think about, from my understanding of just the system, when say he is charged as an adult, from my understanding is that he still will go through the juvenile system, and he will be there until the age of 18, or whatever the age of adulthood where he is, said where 17 or 18. He will be there until he becomes legally an adult, and then he would be then transitioned into a regular state penitentiary prison system. Now, my thoughts on that. I don't see anything wrong with that. What I would like to know is if his sentencing would incorporate any type of mental health treatment, because we often hear talks about, people being sat down and they're going through the penal system, going to jail, but there's no treatment. It's almost like they're just being removed from society, sometimes temporarily, because they'll get out. And then more often than not, the stats show most people who leave the penal system, they return back, because many of them didn't, they didn't get rehabilitated. It's almost like they didn't get treatment while they were in there. So my question too is, you sometimes we see in the movies and see where we see certain inmates going to see a counselor and things like that. My question is, when that takes place, is that an optional type situation, or is that a mandate? Because it's like, can you make someone go and receive mental health treatment while they're locked away? Is like that an option? So what I would want to see for this young man is for not only, okay, he be removed from society, but he receives treatment. So with grandma not being 4, the son being treated as an adult, I'm curious to know what type of punishment do she feel is fit for her grandson? Do she feel like, okay, well, let's just kind of keep him, in juvenile system, until he becomes an adult, and then just let him out? Like, what does that look like? Because I feel like this young man is dealing with a lifelong mental health condition that he's going to need to manage with medication and psychiatric treatment. That's what I feel, because it's very evident, the talks of voices in his head. To me, there's nothing about this story that has me to believe that he isn't capable of, or that he will not do something else, whether it be take someone else's life, hurt someone, do something even more dramatic, if it's even possible, than what he did with his mother. Because as I read through the article, we went through it. It's like he's not cognizant of the severity of the situation, and that's the disturbing part. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. So I did see, and let's jump over to, I mentioned there was another news outlet reported on it. I want to jump over to people.com, because they have some information also pertaining to this situation. And it was just some additional information that the New York Post didn't have in there. So I want to just make sure that we're getting all of the most updated information. So this article over on people.com reads, boy 10 accused of fatally shooting mom because he was angry she wouldn't buy him virtual reality set. So let's play this news clip. Let's get into it. And again, thank you for joining. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, so therefore you are alerted whenever I go live.
Allegedly killing his mother, a 10-year-old Wisconsin boy will be charged as an adult after allegedly killing his mother when she wouldn't allow him to buy an expensive virtual reality headset from Amazon. This, according to a criminal complaint obtained by People, which states that the boy, who has not been publicly named due to his age, shot his 44-year-old mother, Quiana Mann, in the eye at close range at her Milwaukee home. The complaint alleges that after the shooting, the boy first tried hiding the gun and then told his older sister that their mother was dead. The sister then called 911. Police allege that the 10-year-old used his mother's keys to open a locked gun safe containing the gun at around 7 a.m. on November 21st. He allegedly told detectives that he had taken the gun out because he was angry his mother didn't wake him up 30 minutes early, and added that he was upset she would not let him buy the headset. The complaint also alleges that one day after killing his mother, he logged into her Amazon account to buy the Oculus virtual reality headset anyway. The boy initially told police that the shooting was accidental, so he was allowed to stay at home with his family. However, the next day, relatives called the police with concerns about whether he was telling the truth. The complaint states that the family members told detectives that the child had experienced rage issues throughout his life and that he had claimed to have 5 different imaginary people that talked to him. The 10-year-old is being charged with first-degree reckless homicide and is being held on $50,000 bail. If convicted, he could face up to 60 years in prison.
So 60 years in prison, this young man can face if he is convicted. So again, grandma's like, listen, don't try him as an adult. Again, I would like to know what type of punishment she feels is fit or she would like to see for her grandson. Like I can see things from her point of view. It's her grandson and he killed her daughter. So the situation is pertaining to 2 people that she loves dearly, and she know firsthand that her grandson has been struggling with mental illness like almost all his life. Grandma said maybe since about the age of 4, the signs of his mental illness started to kind of surface when he started slinging the dog around by his tail or by his collar while it howled. So again, it's also, a sign of mental illness when you see people who do harmful things to animals. So there's like a lot of signs that this young boy was just dealing with some things. But also the article shows mom was seeking treatment for him. She was. It just didn't work. There wasn't any talks in the article about whether or not the little boy was on any type of medication, psychotropic medication, anything to manage the voices that he was hearing in his head. And, how many of us know or have heard, parents talk about, how they feel about their children being on any type of medication, in particular, like a medication for mental illness. A lot of parents aren't here for that. a lot of because of the side effects. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the story that recently happened. So I live in Atlanta, in Georgia. So in the state of Georgia, so within the city of Atlanta, there was a 12-year-old boy who was shot and killed over the Thanksgiving weekend, and his mother, she said that he had suffered, dealt with mental illness, and she blamed herself for just, I guess, how he ended up. Basically, he ended up dying at the hands of gun violence because he was just living that street life, and she couldn't get him to stop misbehaving. But she said that she did have him briefly on, or did try medication to manage. She didn't say exactly what he was diagnosed with, but she said, she had tried the medication. And I want to say she said the medication, the side effect resulted in him, I think, having a seizure or something like that. And they had to use like 5 EpiPens to kind of get him back or get him under control. So it really scared her, and it made her think like, oh my God, if I keep my son on this medication, it's going to kill him. So she never had him on the medication again. So sometimes it's kind of like what they said at Catch-22, where it's just like, some people will experience the side effects, but then when you look at the alternative to when there isn't any medication being prescribed or being used regularly, what that outcome looks like, So I've seen it just from my, personal experience and the work that I have done before with working with patients who struggle with mental illness from childhood, from adolescence, all the way to senior. And it's pretty bad. So I see the effects of when medication is a part of the mental health treatment plan versus when it's not. And from what I've seen, more often than not, when medication is not a part of the treatment plan, there's more erratic behaviors demonstrated by the person. There are more psychotic episodes that take place when conditions aren't managed by certain types of medications. So it is a tough one. But like I said, in this article, there was no mention of any type of medication this young man was on. So other than the young man going to see a therapist, I just don't know how else he was being treated for his condition. Because to me, it sounded like, he had a condition that definitely needed to be treated with some type of medication. And unfortunately, he's no longer here with us. Unfortunately, the 12-year-old from the Atlanta case, he's no longer here with us. But with this case with Quiana Mann, she's no longer here with us. So we see how, the impact of mental health and the seriousness of it. So that's just probably a whole another conversation that we can have, that we can probably come back and just discuss just the mental health, mental illness, and how it plagues our community. And as we've seen with this article, there is a GoFundMe out there for Quiana. So I did find that. Let me go ahead and share my screen and bring that up. The GoFundMe that's out there for Quiana Mann. May she rest in peace. She was such a beautiful woman, and they say the son shot her and the bullet went through her eyes, and I just can't help but to look at her eyes. She has beautiful eyes, just a beautiful woman. So this GoFundMe, it says Quiana's homegoing. The goal is $20,000. They've raised to date $9,307. So if any of you are interested in participating with that, I would definitely leave the link in a description so you can go out there. But let's read what the GoFundMe says. It says on the morning of November 21st, 2022. Okay, so the GoFundMe was created 4 days ago. So this is a new GoFundMe. It was organized by Rhonda Reed. And I think Rhonda Reed was one of the family members' names that came up in the article I was going over. So the article, GoFundMe says, on the morning of November 21st, 2022, Quiana Mann tragically lost her life. Quiana was cherished and beloved by all who knew her. Her smile alone could light up a room. Listen, this is a beautiful woman, y'all. Like just a beautiful woman. So I believe that because I see the light in her just looking through the picture. And just to think, as I say, we never really know what's going on with people because sometimes people can appear to seem like they're just all good and they got it all together and they just going through it. Because with this son that she was raising, it was evident this Quiana Mann was going through it with her child. And he was just one of four. So it says Quiana, 44, was a mother of four children, had a spirit of giving demonstrated throughout her life. She worked in behavioral health services again. So let's stop there for you all just to, that you get an understanding of what exactly behavioral health services. So I mentioned, remember, that I've worked with adolescents all the way up to seniors who struggle with mental illness. So behavioral health services is that field that helps people who struggle with mental illness. So that's going to be your social workers, clinical mental health counselors, your therapists, your psychiatrists. That all falls under behavioral health. So she was someone who was knowledgeable as it pertained to just mental health, the impact of mental health, the seriousness of it, all of that. So we're not talking about a woman who just was oblivious to just the impact of someone who's ill, like the impact that they can have. She knew. She very much so knew. She knew what options and things were available with treating, mental illness, like what we've learned, that her son struggled through. So again, we haven't seen in any of these articles exactly how she was addressing this mental illness other than taking him on trips and him seeing a therapist. There was no talks of medication, none whatsoever. So I'm still stuck on that because to me, I feel like this young man should have been on some type of medication to manage his condition, because what he was dealing with is what is known as like a chemical imbalance. Mental illness can be like a chemical imbalance when you're talking about like with people who deal with like schizophrenia. You have bipolar disorder. There's so many of them, and they have these different presenting, I guess, characteristics or of them, and some of them even overlap. Like a lot of times, people with schizophrenia also struggle, have bipolar disorder. So a lot of these mental illnesses, you guys, can overlap, and mental illnesses can also be brought on through the onset of just traumatic experiences. So not only can it be like hereditary, it can also be brought on from traumatic experiences, as well as influences such as like drugs. So it's different ways that can bring, or different things that can bring about mental illness. So we only, grandma talked about going back to when the little baby was like maybe like 3 or 4. That's when he maybe started showing signs of mental illness. So given that he was so young, it's very likely, it's a good chance that he could have been born with something where he received, some type of genetic trait from, whether, because like I said, we don't know where daddy is, so we don't know what his faculties are. Mom seemed to have her stuff together. So it's a good chance that this young man could have been born with a mental health disorder, and mom could have probably not even known where it came from, because if daddy's not around for testing and things to do to learn, okay, where something is coming from, you don't know. Because if it's just her, all she knows is what her medical history is like. If he's not around to be available to answer questions pertaining to his medical history, it's just a big question mark. So you're left wondering, like, okay, where did this come from? That's why I feel like it's just so important for both parents to be present in the child's life for just many reasons. And one being for the fact of just being available to answer questions pertaining to your child's health. So it doesn't go unknown, untreated, unidentified, all of that. The article also goes on to say, so it says she worked in behavioral health services because she wanted to ensure that all individuals had equal access to health services. She had a love for God that shined so brightly it suspended any pain she may have experienced. She was compassionate, loving, and kind. Whether you need a friend with a listening ear, advice on how to cook, or simply a few laughs, she would just be one call away. She gave so much to this world and will be sorely missed. In her honor and spirit of giving, we're seeking help for her arrangements so that we may prepare her final wishes. Yeah, so these are some of the donations that have come in. They're still coming in as of, looks like 30 minutes ago. It's a sad situation. This was a woman who gave, and now is a time where, people have the opportunity to give and to sow into her, as she sold into other people while she was here. Because like I said, was in the field of behavioral health services. And that's a tough field to be in. I mean, you see a lot, you experience it. It's what they say. It ain't for the faint at heart. It ain't for the weak. It takes a lot out of you. So for her to be in that field on top of caring for a child who struggles with mental illness, that is a lot. It's almost like she never had a break from dealing with it, because her livelihood came from assisting people who dealt with behavior, mental illness. And then at home, she dealt with it. So that was a lot on this woman. Plus, they talked about she was a student. She was just only a few credits away of earning her master's degree. So this woman she was definitely a woman with a plan. And this smile that she had on her face, what mom always say, sometimes you smile to keep from crying. She had to just find reasons to smile, to keep going. She had a strong faith. She was heavily into the church. From the article, grandma said, she was receiving and seeking out help from the church. She was a part of the choir. I feel like she was doing all that she knew, all that she felt she could, to be there for her child, for her family. And again, I asked, Father, where are you? Where was this young man's father? There's no reason why this woman should have had to been in dealing with all of this by herself. Because I feel like if she had help, if this young man's father was actively present in his life, Quiana would still be here. She would be here because this young man would have the support of a father, a man in his life. There was not even a talk of like an uncle. Grandma talked about how she, was there and things like that. But there was just no talk of like a male present to help with the guiding and the rearing of this young man. So all he had was just his mom doing the best that she could to navigate through life, to take care of the home, to manage his medical condition. Then she had to keep up with the school. They calling, talking about, okay, he doing the most, this going on. And it was a lot. Like, this woman was dealing with a lot. As I say, may she rest in peace. I just hope that wherever she is, and I like to believe that wherever she is, that she's in a better place, and she's just shining down. She's looking down. She's still with her son still every day, because that's still her baby. That's still her child. And she understands that her child was sick. And I don't feel that she's any place, or she's on another side, wherever she is, that she's feeling any resentment towards her child. I feel that she's feeling sorrow, and she hopes that even while she's gone, that someone shows interest in trying to heal her son, or help him manage his symptoms of his mental illness, because mental illness is real. Mental illness is real. Many of us, I'm sure all of us, know someone who struggles with some form of mental illness. And not only is it tough on the individual who's dealing with the mental illness, it's tough on the family. It's very tough on the family. Some might argue it's probably tougher on the family, just because, as I say, that a lot of times a person who's dealing with the mental illness, they're not cognizant of really what's going on. So while they wilding out, acting out, having these episodes, because they're off balance. Remember I say a chemical off balance, they're not realizing like that impact that they're having on people around them, mostly the closest people to them, the people who are trying to help them get better. A lot of times, as I say, that one who is trying to help you and be there for you and be a support for you is oftentimes the one who gets the brunt of the pain, the hurt, the one that the person's lashing out at the most. It's hard, but this is a mother's love when it's your child. Even, when it's your child, it's hard. The average person can't just throw in the towel, especially when they're a minor. As when the child, grows up to become an adult, you have some, adult, parents that be like, okay, son and daughter, I can't do this no more. You're doing the most. I can't, go get your life. But when your child is still a minor, you can't really just be hands off like that, because guess what? It's still your child and you're still legally responsible. So y'all, it is layers to this. I definitely want to know your thoughts on this situation concerning Quiana Mann and her child, her 10-year-old son, who will be charged as an adult for her murder, for shooting her to death. Also, and it says, he can face up to 60 years in prison. What do you think? What type of punishment do you think is fitting for this young man? What do you think? You think that he, you do the crime, you do the time, regardless of age? Do you think that, okay, he's just a baby, he didn't know what he was doing, sit him down for a little while, then let him go and try life again? What do you think? I've told you what I thought, but I would definitely like to know what you think. So I do appreciate you for showing up. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. I like to read the comments, but I do plan to come back with more of these stories. I want to bring life to, like it says, with the Shanquilla, is her last name Robinson, I think. I did a video out there on her recently pertaining to the updates at that time. So definitely check that out. But, the whole term of femicide has just been kind of getting thrown around, because over in Mexico, that is a whole thing, femicide. But here in the USA, that's not a separate crime. And, here in America, women often are viciously murdered. I feel like there should be a crime for femicide, because we hear about the stats all the time with how frequently women, in particularly Black women, die, at the hands of what they call it, intimacy violence. Like I said in my last video, most of the time when I'm learning about a woman, in particular a Black woman, dying, it's at the hands of, like, it's from intimacy, like a lover, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife. It's an intimate, someone who was close to that person. So that is a real thing. And I can't help but to wonder if there were stiffer penalties surrounding that type of thing, if maybe we would see things like that happen in far fewer numbers, because to me, it is a whole epidemic and it is serious. And I just don't think that women, when things happen to women, the women get the attention at the same rate as men, in particularly, or even like Black women, even compared to white women. I just feel like Black women are just kind of at the bottom. So I do plan to definitely come back out here and report on more stories pertaining to women, Black women, and femicide, and I want to just, show that these people are real, they're human, and they did not deserve to be killed, period. They didn't deserve that. Just like Quiana Mann did not deserve to be killed, even if it was, by her son. Like, she didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. And her son, he definitely, I feel like, while he's being dealt with the system, he does deserve to receive some type of treatment for his condition. We have to treat these things. We have to. We can't just ignore it, just say, oh, he or she crazy. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. As we see, it doesn't work that way. By you just saying, oh, yes, they had mental illness. Okay, what were we doing to deal with that? Let's talk about that, because we can't just leave it at, oh, they struggle with this, and that. Okay, well, let's talk about the solutions. What were we doing, as far as the solutions? So like we said, Quiana was taking them on all these trips Okay. And then he had a therapist. Okay. But what else were we doing? Was there any medical treatment, um, in particular medications prescribed for this young man? So again, I've said what I said. Let me know your comments. Please, again, like, share, subscribe. I am your girl Chic Speaks over here. I'm all about family. I'm a whole married woman of 18 years, and I come out here on my platform to just talk about building our families, and shining light and bringing light to situations that goes against that, and bringing examples as to why it's important for us to build our families, why we should come together to create a strong unit and foundation for our children, because it makes a difference. And this is just one story that shows how it makes a difference when there is both a mother and a father in a home with a child, caring for that child together as a team. As they say, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. So again, thank you for showing up for me. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you got that notification bell hit as well, so you know when I go live. And I will catch you on the next broadcast. I am Chic Speaks. Peace. I am out.